Hola, my friends. Many people often ask me, at the end of the day, what is the secret to public speaking? If there can be only one secret that I can crystallize, it would have to be storytelling. Because we have often heard we should tell a story and make a point. And after all, facts tell, but stories sell. But one thing that most trainers don't tell you is this. At the end of the day, not all stories are created equal. Stories are very powerful because they are useful as mental anchors to help you drive home the message for the audience members. But it's precisely because not all stories are created equal, I'm going to share with you 2 quick tips to turbocharge your storytelling abilities. Tip number 1 is to use dialogue instead of narration, and I'll explain in just a while. Tip number 2 is the hero's journey. If you have these 2, it will help to create a very impactful, insightful, and beautiful story. So let me just start by sharing the tip number 1, dialogue versus narration. Last year, I wasn't as cheerful as the guy on the left, on my left, your left. I was more of this guy over here, very frustrated in life. Let me share with you a typical day. Early in the morning, I'll be dressed in a suit tie, holding a briefcase, ready to go to work. I would see my neighbor Joy next door watering the plants. Joy would ask me the silliest and most obvious of questions. She would look at me and she would ask, "Hey Darren, going to work?" I was thinking in my mind, suit tie, holding a briefcase, 7 in the morning, where else could I be going? I really felt like telling her, "Oh no, I'm not going to work, I'm going to your house." And there was once my car had a flat tire. She asked me, "Darren, flat tire?" I felt like telling her, "Oh no, the other 3 are swollen." So you see, I was extremely frustrated a year ago with all these nonsensical conversations with my neighbor Joy. Now, based on my sharing earlier, I used dialogue instead of narration. So you can try it as well. Instead of simply saying or simply just narrating a part of a particular story, use dialogue because it helps to create a particular element that makes the character come alive. For example, instead of saying, "My mother asked me where I had gone when I reached home at 12 midnight, say instead, "When I reached home at 12 midnight, my mom looked at me with a stare and yelled, 'Where have you been?'" That would help the story come alive and allow the audience members to be transported into that particular area as if they are there with you. Tip number 2 is the hero's journey. If you have the hero's journey, it could be a teacher, it could be a coach, it could be a mentor. It helps to create that kind of catalyst for change. It allows the audience members to believe your story much more, to have the aha moment, and more importantly, to better apply the kind of techniques that the hero enjoyed and endured. Let me share with you one final story before I end my speech. When I was a law student, there was a psychology professor who came to my law school. His name is Dr. Dan. Before he started his presentation, he took out a piece of paper that looked just like this. And he asked all of us, "What do you see?" We were thinking, this is not a trick question. "I see a red dot." He said, "What else do you see?" And this got us law students very excited. We were thinking, okay, we need to be a bit more creative with our answer. So one law student raised his hand and said, "I know. It is a blemish on an otherwise pristine white piece of paper, and under the statutory provision of the Republic of Singapore, Sales of Good Act, Section 12, subsection 2, subsection A, you can sue the manufacturer for damages." But the professor said, "That's all that you observe." And he used it to prove a very important point. And that is, we human beings, we tend to see the red first. We tend to focus on the blemishes and the contamination in others. It takes a lot more courage to take a step back and look at the larger area of white and goodness in others. That was his hero journey. And his message behind was the next time you see a blemish in others, take a step back, observe the goodness, and praise others. You would have a whole new positive outlook in life. So what have I shared with you today? Tip number 1 is to use dialogue instead of narration, and tip number 2 is the hero's journey. Feel free to create a stories bank with your smartphone, come up with a note, and come up with all kinds of ideas and accumulate it in there. Because at the end of the day, we know facts tell, but stories sell. Thank you very much.